Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I just want to talk about the next steps that actually happen after you have vibe coded a product. So it's really easy now to obviously produce products with tools such as Lovable and get them made to a point where you can actually sell it to customers. But what a lot of these people online aren't really showing is actually the hard work that goes in after developing a product. So you might be able to clone a website, you might be able to clone a £10,000 a month app, but actually how do you get it to market? And this is something that I've found challenging when I launched my product, which I built in Lovable called AudioFlow. And I'm going to just talk to you high level about what the steps were in order to actually acquire $50,000 worth of customers within the first 2 months. So a little bit about the business itself and what product I've actually created. So I've worked within the digital learning space for 15 years now. And predominantly what that means is learning internally inside a business. So a lot of businesses, we have things like compliance training, soft skills, and upskilling. So if somebody needs to learn how to do a certain skill, such as AI, we will typically build something like an e-learning, which is just basically a piece of learning which is on a computer. But what is really boring about it is that people just click through it, get to the end. There's normally like a little quiz. They do that and then move on with their day. They don't really retain the information. And I've always had this thing about we need to learn like we do outside of work. So if I was to ask you guys now, how would you learn? You would say YouTube, as we're on YouTube now, podcast potentially, or other formats such as like TikTok or social media, because that's how people engage with the world now. So my kind of product, which I've built, is based off a problem that I've seen internally in businesses over the last 15 years. And I've worked with some of the UK biggest companies and some global companies doing this and kind of consulting on learning for the businesses. So this is why I built this product. It's to solve a problem, which is how do you learn on the go? So audio, podcasts, and then how do you build at speed? So using AI, you can obviously build things relatively quick now. So the product itself is basically an AI podcast generation tool, which is targeted for learning and development teams, internal communication teams, and then other people such as recruitment and so forth can use this as well. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the kind of that build of how I built the product, but high level, what it does, you can click in, you create a podcast just by simply, it's kind of like Google's LLM. But one thing I'm going to talk about later on is compliance and why companies might struggle using the big companies such as Google. Basically, what a person would do is that they would just put a title in, say it's training material, they copy and paste their information onto here. High level, then they can basically say it's going to be like an interview style. I want it to be roughly about 10 minutes. You can change the tone. So basically, it's built off ChatGPT in the background. So what it does is that it takes the elements that are built here and then it scripts the information into a conversation of 2, 3 people, depending on how many people you actually put into the conversation. There's certain things like if you want a little bit of banter in there, if you want there to be no banter, if you want it to be comedic, whatever. So what you could do then is that you basically select your voices and then you can add as many kind of as you like into the conversation. And this is where kind of the tool starts differentiating against like Google LLM, because in Google, it's 2 American voices. You can't put multiple people in there, like 3, 4, 5. You can't change the accents. You can't have that kind of like bespoke element of this. And because I'm targeting the UK, people say, oh, we don't want American voices. We want it to be more relatable. We want it to be UK voices. So I saw an existing product, which is obviously amazing. It's a billion-pound company, multi-billion-pound company, building products like this, and people engage with it. But my product is a bit more bespoke for the needs of a business here in the UK. It can be used globally because there are American voices and so forth in here, but there's going to be one element that I want you to watch, which I'll talk about later on, which is going to be why a business cannot just go use Google in order to create podcasts, especially using sensitive information. So ultimately what it does is that as soon as it's been produced, it'll give you a podcast, which you can go back and edit as well. So say, for example, you're not happy with certain parts of the script. It basically produces you an MP3. You can go back in here and edit it. You have the script that's been produced. and then you can just go back and keep reiterating as many times as you want until you're happy with the podcast. So that's ultimately what the product is. And just to prove that this is all being built in Lovable, I have my Lovable dashboard here, and I'll quickly just go back into my dashboards. As you can see, I'm building a couple of different projects in here, but here is AudioFlow. So all this took me around roughly about 2 months to make sure that I was happy with building this. Now, there's a lot of people who talk about one-shot prompting and it does you all this and this. But because this is going B2B, it's going to businesses, I wanted to make sure that if I'm going to be selling this to businesses, it is right. Like, there's no data leaks. The way that the logins work doesn't mean that if I log in as one company, I'm going to see another company's information, because that's a huge risk. So there's a lot of testing that actually happened in building this product. Okay, so once you build the product, what do you do next? Now, the strategy is completely different depending on if you're B2B, which is business to business. So I'm a business selling to businesses, or if you're B2C, which is business to consumer, which is basically every person who can have access to this via their phone or their laptop or whatever they want to use. Right. So I actually built this tool to be both B2B and B2C. So it's a business tool, but it can be used individually as well. And there's two different strategies I've taken in order to achieve sales and to get $50,000 worth of income come through based off the kind of interactions I've had. And I just want to kind of just do a little social proof as well. So here's one of my customers who is just about to sign up, but because businesses work a little bit different, they basically work off like budgets. So a lot of businesses like get to the end of the year, they have to spend their money. So when I used to be like head of digital learning for a certain company, I had like from January to the end of December to spend X amount of money on tools which were going to help me advance the company. So this company, what they're doing is that they're going to be purchasing as soon as their new budget comes into place. So they probably spent their budget currently at the moment, but as soon as it hits January, they will basically then purchase AudioFlow for their business. And this customer specifically is paying $7,500 to get access to the system for a year. So this basically just says like here, hi, I definitely want to go ahead. Our budget doesn't commence until January, but I'm trying to push it forward either way. I don't see there being any issue being approved. As soon as it is, I'll let you know, basically. So that's a guaranteed customer. It's a hot lead. It's come in from conversations I've had with that company, and it's a very strong prospect. But that's just one customer, and we've got multiple customers now, which is lucky because that's not always the case, especially when it comes to products which are vibe coded or just any products in general. Like, you can build products, but it's not actually the product, it's how you get it to market, which is the big question. Okay, so I'm going to just minimize this part here and go back onto the screen. So my strategy for AudioFlow to get it to market was a little bit different, because it's not like I can just do some social ad campaigns to attract a business. Yes, I can go onto LinkedIn and I'll show you what I've been doing over LinkedIn. But because I've been in this industry for so long, I know there is conferences in the UK which are specified for the type of people who I actually want to target. So I had a choice. Do I spend $3,000 on ads on LinkedIn and hope for the best? Or do I go to a show, a conference, and actually have one-on-one conversations with people who are decision makers, who come from companies from all different sizes, from small to all the way to enterprise companies, and show them the product? And because this is an audio product, it's hard to show audio online. So I wanted to show people how faster you can build a podcast, how easy it is, and what the benefits are. So I went to an event called The World of Learning. It was based in Birmingham and it was based in October. So it was 6th and 7th of October in the city in Leeds, in the city called Birmingham, right? So this was a 2-day event, and my target was to achieve as many leads as possible during this time. And you have to kind of think, a lead is somebody who is interested in potentially speaking about the product after me showing it to them at the event. So they've seen the product, they've seen me, they've met me, they've seen the product, seen how it works. They filled out a form, another form which I actually built in Lovable. So really simply before the actual event, I built this form just based off Lovable, really simple, really high level. What's your name? What's your work email? What's your work phone number? What company do you work for? And just any additional notes, because there might have been something in that conversation that I might need to remember. Send the details, and also as well, I kind of create this little follow-up button so people could scan it at the show and then just follow us on LinkedIn. So that basically means I can keep them warm via LinkedIn. So that was really good. I got over 100 leads over the 2 days. Now, realistically, 100 leads, as nice as it sounds, isn't going to turn into a customer. Customers don't really work like that, and businesses don't really work like that. Depending on the size of the business, they don't just go, oh my God, I've seen this product, I want to buy it. Now, there were some big companies there were real enterprise companies who are making millions a month or a year. And then there's small businesses and then medium businesses. So it is actually easier to achieve a sale with a small to medium business because you can probably speak to directors a lot easier. It's easy for them to just pay by card than it is to get an enterprise client. But the good thing with enterprise clients is that they are willing to spend a lot more because it's not really as expensive to them because they make so much money. But because it is a enterprise company, which we have got customers for, it becomes a lot more tricky getting through the door. Now, when I was working in enterprise, I had a job paying $100,000 a year, really successful, but it didn't actually allow me just to go purchase products like this as easy as I wanted and as fast as the team wanted. There's a lot of scrutiny that actually happens when it comes to introducing tools such as AI into businesses. So that was something that I'm going to touch on in a minute as well, and how we actually get past that problem of getting yourselves into businesses. But other things such as that, so here's me at the show. That's not me, that's somebody listening to one of the podcasts. But this is some social proof from the actual show it was. So that's me there just talking to a group of individuals. They're actually from 3 different companies, but we just had the conversation together, showed the demo and let them ask as many questions at the time just about the product. This is my friend. So he came and joined us on the days. You need people like this when you're starting up a business. You can't do it alone. So if you can get a friend who can help out and just chip in and have them conversations, because if you're speaking to one person, you don't want to miss the other person who's walking past. So that was really useful, just having a friend there on the day. They helped record some stuff as well and take some photos and help with the social proof. But these kind of like reactions of people listening to the actual podcasts as they became like live for the first time was priceless. I really wish I filmed more of these because I didn't think about it until the second day and it was like halfway through the day. But this type of content really helps sell it because that reaction of somebody going, oh my God, this actually sounds pretty good considering it's AI and it's 2 people conversating about something I literally just put into the system like 10 seconds ago. And it took them like 2 minutes to build this product and they've got a 5-minute podcast already. It blew people's minds and it made them go, oh my God, like this is what we want in our business. It might not be right now because it might need a few kind of like people to pass and we need to speak to so-and-so in finance and we need to speak to data security or whatever, but it's something that we want to introduce into the business. So that's what really helped me get this to market was this event that I basically went to. And now I'm going to be booking into some further events over the next 20 years, so 2026. But there's one thing that has been really challenging and something that I had to invest in, which at the first point, I was aware that I would have to do this when I was building the product, but I just didn't realize how hard it was actually going to be. And that is what I've just talked about previously, which is around compliance. So let me just go to Google. So one thing that a lot of businesses, and it works within the US and it works globally, they need to make sure that their data is not going to go anywhere outside of this system. Now, I said earlier around there's a reason why people won't just use Google's LLM, and there's a reason why they won't just put their information into ChatGPT, because ultimately ChatGPT and Google are taking the data. So if you're putting business sensitive information into a system, it will take that information and train the AI. Now, businesses do not like that, right? They don't want their information to go any further than just the business because that is a massive risk. Imagine they're doing something sensitive, which is very business specific. all of a sudden a competitor can see what they're doing by searching on ChatGPT and trying to understand, it will be detriment to that company. And then me as a business owner, I would get sued, probably get fined and probably closed down, because I can't handle, as a small business, as a startup, the amount of scrutiny that will come from that kind of world. So there's protocols that you need to put in place in order to get into these enterprise companies. Some companies aren't really that precious about this. So the small to medium businesses, the ones that I said before, are a lot easier because they don't need to kind of think about all this. But with the big £1 million companies who are going to pay a lot more, have a lot more scrutiny in order to actually get product into their business. So there's companies such as Vanta which can help out with this. And the good thing is, because of like the tools that they have, they are really good at actually just making sure that you are keeping compliant. So the thing that we had to do in the UK is this one here called ISO 27001. And that is a certification to secure and give proof to businesses that you are secure and you are compliant, and then none of the information is going to get leaked. So what this does is that it basically looks at all the code that's been written. It also has an external auditor who basically looks at all the code, looks at all the software, looks at everything that you've done in order to make sure that there is no risk at all. And if there are risks, they'll basically tell you how to fix the code. This is what we're looking at. This is what you need to do in order to achieve compliance. And this is something that costs around about $8,000 a year. In the UK, it's ISO 27001, but in the US, there's something called SOC 2. If it's something around health and medical, there's something called HIBA, I believe. There's different compliance rules depending on what product you're trying to sell to businesses. But once you have this, it makes it a lot easier just to have them conversations and go through that scrutiny when it comes to security within businesses. And the first thing when it comes to the big businesses, the first thing they're going to do is ask you what's going on with your data, because they can't have them risks. So this is one step that I had to take in order to achieve sales. And it was something that I had to fork out for, unfortunately. But ultimately, long term, if I'm looking to build a product which isn't just a quick cash grab and go, I'm looking to build a sustainable product that which can potentially exit one day, these are the steps that you need to take. And you might need to borrow some money from somewhere, you might need to get investment, whatever it is, in order to achieve kind of these types of goals, because I've got big aspirations about AudioFlow. Okay, so back to LinkedIn. So other ways of obviously acquiring new people, besides obviously going to these events, which can be costly. And the thing is, luckily that one was a very successful event, but you can do events which are just rubbish and nobody goes to, and you don't get any leads. So luckily the first event I went to, it was worth the money I spent. But other ways of obviously acquiring new people, which people don't really do enough of, is go to LinkedIn and just look for people who are the decision makers within businesses and try to connect with them. Now, these people, and when I was at my previous company, we used to get lots of people just messaging me, salespeople, very salesy, automatic messages from LinkedIn or whatever. But what I've done a little bit different is, instead of being salesy, is because we are still a new product, is use these people for feedback and just build relationships with them. So say, for example, this Aaron guy here, head of digital learning at, I believe that's Specsavers. So I'd connect with them. As soon as that person comes back and accepts my invitation, I'd say, hey, Aaron, thanks for connecting. Notice that you're the head of digital learning for Specsavers. Just wanted to get some feedback on a product which I've created since I was in that space for 15 years. I was him in that role for the last 15 years for big companies. So we have that kind of connection already, because we will say that we worked within the same industry. And I built something which is to solve a problem of learning on the go and creating podcasts for learning. Would you like to have a test and just have 14 days to use the product, and just let me know what you think? I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just basically saying I want you to try my product and I just want you to give me some feedback. Because that person is getting a message around somebody who is kind of respecting them and respecting their kind of level of seniority. It's not asking for you to buy the product, it's asking for you to give some feedback on the product. It then warms them, and not everybody's going to come back and say, yeah, sure, I'll have a go. And it might take a few messages and kind of reminders, because people are busy, people haven't got time to test out all these systems. But if they are interested in the product itself, they'll probably go, you know what, fine, give me 14 days for free. Let me have a little play. Let me see what this is about. Let me have a conversation, and let's have these follow-up conversations afterwards. So that is basically what is kind of my LinkedIn strategy. And I've had some good conversations off the back of this, not sales wise yet, but conversations, which are always a good thing, because like I said before, when new budgets start, you want to be at the forefront. You want people to remember you and hopefully purchase. So this is what I've done in respect of my kind of like B2B strategy so far. There's lots of different ways. And the good thing is that I have been speaking to other people within kind of the space of what I'm in, other companies who have basically gone through this process and might be like 2-3 years forward to me. But what I've been doing is speaking to another company and kind of like, not really a mentor, but just kind of some kind of advice. And he gave me some advice about how he's got his company to from zero to like, he got investment recently for £1 million here in the UK, how he went through them steps, how he got sales, what's the best and most effective for him. So it's kind of like been good because I've had like a kind of blueprint for me to follow in order to hopefully replicate his success. And he's somebody who's potentially looking to partner with me. And a good thing about this another thing which is actually a really good tip for you is partnerships. So partnering with other companies that have similar interest in your kind of product, but don't sell your product, but their customers are very much aligned to your product. So with me, like say for example, like the e-learning space or learning management systems, we can potentially partner with companies who build content, builds like e-learnings for companies. And I might want to introduce building podcasts for companies. So if they have a client base and they've got like 15 clients who you might want to take over, instead of you taking, say, for example, if it's $15,000 for you to successfully get into a enterprise company, you might give them a cut. So you're using their salespeople, and you might say to them, look, instead of 15, you take 5, we take 10, everyone's happy, but we just use your sales team, your contacts already to promote the product. So that actually helps the sales process. I don't need to keep thinking about like trying to take events, and it'll help grow it because then I can kind of say on my website that, we actually work with X, Y, and Z company. So that's kind of one strategy that I'm going to be taking into next year. And when it comes to the consumer side, I've not really concentrated on that so much yet, just because it's not really like you'd have to achieve to get $15,000. You'd have to, if a customer's paying like $20 a month, like 1,000 customers or however many it is to get the same amount of income in. So that's why I've kind of been focusing more on the B2B side, just because I think one, on a reoccurring monetary wise, the business more than likely, if they're going to take it for 1 year, they'll probably take it for 2 to 3 years. And you can negotiate deals with custom businesses. You can say, look, if it's going to be a 1 year contract, it's going to cost you 15. If you come on a 2 year contract, it's going to cost you 12,500 per year. Or if you come on a 3 year, we'll do you 10,000 per year, so 30,000. So over the long term, you can potentially negotiate deals, and then you have that like a long-term revenue coming in. And if you are looking for investment, you can show them forecasts and you can say like, this is the agreement we've had, this is the contract we've had, and this is what we're looking to do. When it comes to consumer and a product like this, you'd have to do so much marketing in order to actually achieve the same result. So that's why I'm personally, even though it can be used for individuals, and the way that it can be used for individuals is mainly for like, say for example, you're studying, you can put your study notes into here and they can just convert it into a podcast. Same use case, but from a business who might have like 20,000 employees, you could just basically say like that's £1 per person or $1 per person. So paid $20,000 to get this product, which will help your 20,000 people learn. I kind of work out a lot of the kind of enterprise level costs based off the people within the company. And then when you just break it down and say to a customer that it's only going to cost you £1 or $2 per person in order to get this product, then it kind of like from a monetary perspective, it's actually really good value for that person. So that's my strategy. That's what I'm looking to do. I'm going to be talking about other things such as contracts, how we actually do individually go through each part, how we actually built this product, Lovable. But if you want to learn more about this, please comment, share, like, subscribe, let this channel grow. and I will keep building content based off this. And yeah, anything else you want to know, let me know. Speak soon.